as you know, Kevin Costner has been releasing, this is going to actually be a 4-part movie series, and the first part came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so we have basically Kevin Costner makes a big budget TV show for the cinema.
Spends
a lot of his own money.
Yeah, I wonder why it's not on TV show and it's in the movies. But of course, let's talk about it.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, there's another way you can support the show. You already know about it. It's the Patreon. Join the Patreon for less than $1 a month and an opportunity to take up, tell us what movies we can review for a future episode with, of course, a shout out to you as well.
Plus, you get early access to our episodes. We don't want to wait until Monday, because who wants to wait until Monday?
If you join the Patreon and watch reviews, I do get a little more salty with him than I do on the regular show, so you can watch that too.
We should start drinking during this.
Western sagas, spaghetti westerns, John Fords, and all that stuff. Let's talk about it. What is going on with Horizon?
So explore the first installment of a 15-year saga as the Old West is both won and lost by all those trying to stake their claim on history.
Okay, this is directed by Kevin Costner. This is kind of his brainchild that has been marinating on since like 1988, right around when he did like Dances with the Wolves. He's using the same cinematographer he used, I think, with Open Range, if I'm remembering right.
J. Michael Muro, who also did Crash, which, say what you will about Crash, looks good.
And Kevin Costner's not afraid to try to swing big with the bat. He did Waterworld in the 90s, was a big... Not a big success, but also...
Big movie.
Yeah, it was a big movie, but also didn't really successful. Now people actually appreciate it far more than they did in the 90s, also with The Postman. So Kevin Costner's not afraid to use a big bat to try to hit a home run with it. And it's not really a surprise for me he wanted to make this kind of sweeping Western. This is kind of a genre that he really enjoys doing.
Yeah, and it's one that's kind of been tough to break in. I feel like Westerns and sci-fi films are both those like opposite ends of the same spectrum in terms of they have niche people to see them, and yet they usually cost a considerable amount of money to make. Right. So it's really hard to make them break through that lineage, especially now when you have so many options in the movie theaters that it just, dilutes it a lot.
My first impression is, and especially when I was watching it, probably about an hour and a half into it, I was like, wow, this is really heavily John Ford, heavily influenced kind of a movie. I see a lot of the searchers into it. I see a lot of Man Who Shot at Liberty Valance, the guy who just wants to live out, and he's caught in this entanglement, which is played by Kevin Costner. You have a variety of subplots, and of course you focus a lot on not just on the settlers, but also the Native American people who are in there as well, who inhabited the place as well.
Yeah, and I think you have, I think I counted maybe like 5 sets of characters. Reading this, and we don't know, I guess, how parts 2, 3, and 4 are going to go to this story, or if we'll even get those.
No, but
considering that when I left the theater for this movie, I saw the news report that they pulled the second one off the release schedule. So we don't even know really what state we're going to get for that.
We're only we're only talking about 25% of the whole thing.
Yeah. And so I have to wonder to myself, like, would it have been more beneficial to introduce some of these in part 2? Because it does look like Giovanni Ribisi is in the cast list for the film. He's actually only in the 5-minute trailer at the end for part 2. He doesn't have a line of dialogue. So I don't know how much more we're going to get as far as introductions of other characters and that kind of thing, but it does feel like it's pretty heavily front-loaded on a lot of setup. Yeah. And I don't really know what the plot of the movie is.
Yeah, and we're just critiquing the first 3 hours of it. It really goes for that. And I'm not talking about the big action sequences, which you get a lot of, but I'm talking about when it goes schmaltzy. It's very John Ford schmaltzy. Yeah. Especially that Sam Worthington scene of them, and it's framed just like how he would with the tree in the background.
Oh, and see, I was thinking of Michael Rooker and his lady friend.
Yeah,
it's very much like kind of a thing.
It's very much like She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. If you know that John Wayne, John Ford Cavalry, they wrote in just like in that movie. So for me, I'm seeing a lot of strong influences. I do like this whole narrative of Kevin Costner's protagonist, how he goes into town and how he gets entanglement. I like that far more. It's far more appealing than anything else. It seems like that one probably wanted to be the core of the story. Yeah. But I don't really gravitate to a lot of other subplots that are happening.
Well, and part of the problem is it's almost like we're seeing, let's imagine this is a 400-page book and we're only covering the first 100 pages. Sometimes your real forward momentum hasn't started. And that's true about the whole plot of the film. I'm still not sure really what the story is. Like, it seems to me like Horizon is a town or a settlement that is being sold, but we have very few moments in the film spent there. You know, I think it's outside of that opening attack sequence. We don't get Horizon really in the film, so it's not really a character yet as a location. The introductions, I was interested in a couple of them. I particularly like the Jenna Malone and Michael.
Oh yeah, I
one.
do. Yeah.
Which again, peculiar stuff because you have a 3-hour movie. She's introduced in the second scene, and then we don't pick up with her for like 45 more minutes. So there's just a lot of that spread out stuff going on.
I do like. Everybody says I like the word I like about zombie movies is not so much the zombies, but the characters that are not zombies.
Yep.
They have to thrive.
Yeah.
Westerns work when you don't have all the time these. Everybody's a gunslinger. You need things that are dynamic of those relationships. Obviously, Jenna Malone is trading up to being married to this guy.
Yeah.
And it's a dynamic that it's not really part of a Western that you think, but it needs to be in there. That's far more appealing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think the Kevin Costner part is probably the portion of the film that I was most interested in, just because it does feel like he's probably going to be the main character of the story, being on the poster.
Oh, I do like that villain.
You know,
he's so annoying. He's a little
little dude, J.B. Campbell Bower,
the psychopath that's in your ear all the time, and then you just can't spot it away.
Yeah, Vecna from Stranger Things is a dirtbag here too. So
it's fascinating. He plays dirtbag really well.
Yeah. I think my favorite portion outside of Kevin Costner's was probably Sienna Miller's, just because she's a great actress, and I do think she got a bulk of the centralized plot in the film.
She needs her up. She's been in a variety of great performances. History of Violence, she was really good in. She just hasn't had that thing that makes her pop out of a movie to really sell her name. A lot of cinephiles will know who she is, but household name. It's eventually, maybe this is the opportunity for it.
Yeah, so I was into Sienna Miller's whole plot line in the film. I particularly like the scene where she's using the shotgun to breathe through the ground. I think that was a really cool sequence.
Yeah.
And again, that whole set piece was really well done, you know, and we get some good character actors. Nice thing about Costner working in the TV world is it's kind of like when Alfred Hitchcock went to the TV world for his show and then was able to make Psycho on slightly better of a budget, because the budget for these movies is not as grandiose as I would have thought.
Oh, but yeah, you get some wonderful performances. I didn't recognize Abby Lee, and she's from. I recognize her from the Neon Demon. She started as a modeling career. She had great performances. We always talk about Jenna Malone, but also you get like Dale Dooley, who's always this crusty old woman.
Yeah,
she's been this. You also get Danny Houston, doesn't his kind of posing. He's kind of this poser, but Michael Rooker's in there.
Michael Rooker, who I'm a big fan of Michael Rooker. I think he's the kind of guy who's he's never going to get the leading man consistently, but he always punctuates films that he's in. Even if he's there for one scene, he's not in that the Suicide Squad with James Gunn. He's not in it very much, but man, he really does own those first few minutes.
It's kind of comical that Luke Wilson almost is doing the same character he did in Idiocracy. He's surrounded by idiots, and he has to navigate it, even though he doesn't want the responsibility. But he seems to be the most smart person, the most diplomatic person to be about it. But he just wants to be this settler, but he's got this attached to all this political dynamics that he has to handle. Right?
Yeah, and again, like that part, that was the last, I think, plot introduced in the film. I think we were nearly 2 hours in by the time we introduced another plot line, which I felt like could have been pushed off to part 2.
Yeah.
It's introduced, we're given some idea of where it's going, but I still we never really moved anywhere on that needle, and I like a lot of the people that are in there. In that sequence, so I was all in on that idea. But this goes back to, I think, an experiment that I was suggesting a few years ago, back when COVID hit, was that they had pushed the Halloween sequels because of COVID. And I remember saying, you know what they should do in October? They should release one of the sequels in the first weekend of October, and then do the second one in the last portion of the month, and that way you could kind of get people to come back to the theater twice. I don't think that's helping this film, is the close release of them, and I think that's why they pulled the second one off the schedule.
Let it breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Let it breathe a little bit. But right, because the problem is two things, and I try before we go. Kevin Costner always wants to be the American hero in his movies, and he also wants to be the protagonist good guy. That's why it's kind of interesting. We critique Mr. Brooks when he's a killer. But, the American baseball player and the Western, that almost no harm can go through them no matter what turmoil is in his life. That, not to mention, it's a homework assignment to go see this. It's 3 hours, not to mention drive over and the trailers and everything. It's a huge homework assignment to go see this movie. So you have to, it's a monetary huge investment to sit and decompress and watch this movie that I actually did enjoy it. I did
See,
enjoy it.
I can't really. I feel like I can't give a recommendation on this movie because
I haven't finished it.
It's so early in the story still. It feels like I walked out of a pilot and was like, the season is great.
Well, I'm on board. I'm interested. I want to know where it's gonna go.
I feel like I've invested now my 3 hours. Now I have to see how it's going. And like I do believe I believe in Kevin Costner. I believe in him as a director. I don't have enough going on this movie. It's not like with Dune Part 1 where I was disappointed in the moment it ended and how it chose to end in that spot. Yeah. But I went back and rewatched it with Dune Part 2 and enjoyed it immensely more because I got the full story. But with Dune Part 1, I feel like I still got enough of a story. I feel like I'm just so early on this. I can't recommend the film until I've seen Part 2. So hopefully we see it soon.
Yeah, it's very rich, and I'm on board. So what do you think of our assessment of the first chapter out of 4?
Yeah, so let us know your thoughts down in the comments section, and what do you think is going to happen with Chapter 2? Do you think the film didn't perform well enough at all to even get it released, or do you think it'll end up on a streaming service? It was released by New Line Cinema, so it's possible we'll get this on Max, or just later on in the theaters, but it's tough to tell right now because Westerns are not getting the hit that they need in theaters. So maybe it'll do better on TV like Yellowstone did. But let us know your thoughts on that down below. Thank you guys for joining us for this. You can find my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
Hey, you can find my show anywhere you find podcasts. That's true.